teams, and so we'll likely have seen them have experience coming into this.
So maybe that does adjust their thinking a little bit, actually heading into even just turn 0, as we're going to see that Galarian Weezing alongside that Shadow Rider Calyrex for Justin, and for Daniel, it's going to be this Whimsicott and Ogrefon.
Okay, so Weezing has hit the field now. This, of course, turns off the Prankster from the Whimsicott, so Calyrex will be able to, attack it before it gets to make a move here. But yeah, you can see the hover for just the Fire Terra Ivy Cudgel immediately into Calyrex. Daniel's saying, you know what, I'm just going to try to still knock your Calyrex out. The Calyrex on this team normally doesn't really have a ton of bulk, and so the idea is to try to just get that, a huge amount of burst damage onto it immediately. Now, the downside is you won't get your Tailwind off first. Also, by going for this, the move that Daniel's opting for, it means you can't Dark Terra Whimsicott, so you are a little bit more exposed to Expanding Force if Justin plays passively on turn 1 and, protects, but I don't know, I think Weezing's just not accomplishing a ton right now.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And I think when you actually see this terrestrialization onto the Ogerpon, I mean, this really does heavily lean into the offensive power that this Ogerpon can have. You, of course, don't actually get the boost from your Embody aspect, so you're not going to be able to get that attack boost, but it kind of plays out okay. Like, you still get a good amount of extra damage to your Ivy Cudgel if you were able to actually land it into the Calyrex, and the Whimsicott gets to go for the Tailwind anyway, because we did see this Protect onto the Calyrex. Toxic Spikes, though, now hitting the field. Yeah,
so my question is basically, how much value do you get out of this Toxic Spikes, right? Like, I think Toxic Spikes is really nice if you're able to get, the Dozo and the Tatsu out on the field. So I'm curious, is there any chance it is Dozo Tatsu in the back? I think that would be really interesting, but right now, Daniel does have the speed advantage, right? You were able to set up that Tailwind. This Weezing didn't have a way to threaten in terms of damage against here, so Toxic Spikes probably all it can really go for. And I think right now it would give the advantage to Daniel still, even though he wasn't able to get an attack off into that Calyrex slot on turn 1.
Well, I actually don't hate the idea of the Dondozo coming, because if the Weezing is on the field, then actually Unaware doesn't matter either, does it?
Yeah, although I think if those were the hit field, you probably want to make sure Tatsu is out with it immediately, just because you really don't want it to take any damage. The idea is to stall things out. But okay, here is the switch. Is it Dozo coming out? Okay, so now is it Tatsugiri coming out alongside it? You also could just, protect this turn, saying, you know what, you don't have a grass type attack here on the Ogrepon.
Yeah, so the Ivy Cudgel into the Dondozo, it's not going to do a good amount of damage there at all, even though you do actually see that extra little bit of same type attack bonus.
Oh.
But yeah, the Ogrepon's going to miss. That's an unfortunate miss there.
Yeah, Poison Gas, a move that can miss, and that is really unfortunate. I think with this team, all the poisons just stack up so quickly, and so yeah, this is kind of awkward, right? Because it's you can just launch Draco into Dondozo. Dondozo doesn't have Earthquake, and so that's why Daniel was also able to Terra with more confidence there on, earlier on in this game. And so you don't have to worry about Earthquake now just dealing super effective damage. And so the question now is Justin's got to start dealing damage at some point, or getting enough poison damage across the board, but Daniel's just throwing on so much offensive pressure. Weezing at best can just maybe spread another poison, right? Or Dazzling Gleam for a little bit of damage. So my question is, what is Justin's fourth Pokemon? Is it going to be that Tatsugiri? If you commit to that Tatsugiri, you're vulnerable just taking so much damage from Miraidon still.
This is kind of awkward for Daniel, though, because if you wanted to actually lock into the Dazzling Gleam, you're not actually able to get any bit of extra boost to your damage. But it's really awkward for Justin now, too, because if you just go for Volt Switch here and an Ivy Cudgel into the Dondozo slot, you're forcing a Terra at some point. You're going to be able to do good damage either way. And so Daniel actually is going to lock into the Draco Meteor instead and trying to get that double target into the Dondozo.
Yeah, so Justin this turn trying to play a little bit more passively, saying, look, I know you have poison damage out, I have leftovers, I also know your choice spec's Miraidon, so let me see what you lock yourself into. The risk anytime you protect in front of this team, it's a hard switch into Whimsicott, then of course being able to Encore afterwards, but now Justin knows, okay, you're locked into this Draco Meteor. What he could do now, of course, is switch Weezing out into Tatsugiri if he ended up bringing Tatsu. There's a chance there's no Tatsugiri in the back, honestly. I think that would be really, really interesting. But if you do have Tatsu, you could switch it and then just go for Wave Crash right now and try to get a knockout. But the reality here is Draco Meteor still does a lot of damage, and if you're switching Weezing out, then boom, you now allow the terrain to get set up. And with Unaware basically canceling out the special attack drops, Draco just do so much to the Dondozo. But here's the Weezing pivot. Is it going to be Tatsugiri?
Well, we're going to see the neutralizing gas actually get eliminated first. So we're going to have that Hadron engine finally activate with the terrain. And the embody aspect also gets turned on for this Ogerpon. So that is going to be a nice attack boost. And it is that Tatsu. So we're going to have the commander activate as well.
All right, I think basically the game that Justin is trying to set up for is, okay, let me like try to dish out damage across the board. This is how you often deal with these teams, right? Get enough damage across the board, then Calyrex comes out and just sweeps everything with Astral Barrage in the end game. So now that you've got the Dondozo combination off, first of all, how much does it take from this combination? Does Draco even hit?
No
it
way.
misses! Oh,
Well, that's one way that you're going to be able to buy a little bit more extra time for your Dondozo. Just miss out the Draco Meteor completely. And the Ivy Cudgel doesn't get a critical hit either. So as we see the order up into the Miraidon, there's no way to actually Terrasilize away from that. You're going to get knocked out to poison at the end of the turn. And because you actually see the Droopy form Tatsugiri, you're getting a defense boost from that order up.
Yeah, the defense boost, of course, really valuable into physical attackers like the Ogerpon. Now, this Ogerpon can, of course, try to crit through, but even if you go for that focus energy, like, how much is Ivy Cudgel gonna do, right, is the question. And so this does now, of course, allow for a free switch in, but that's a huge, huge Draco miss. It is gonna be Iron Hands as the final Pokemon, but this Iron Hands, first of all, doesn't have Wild Charge, right? And second of all, now you have two physical Pokemon against a Dondozo, which is boosting up its defense. If Iron Hands switches in, it also takes that poison damage as well. And so I wonder how different this game would look had that Draco connected, but I feel like Justin is in really, really good shape right now.
Yeah, even the Whimsicott coming in here, going for something like Moonblast, or you can try to Encore, or like anything. It feels really, really rough right now. I think you have to hope that you're able to get some type of crit with this Ogerpon now. Yeah,
like now you can this turn at least go for Fake Out into Focus Energy and then start going for, you know, get those crits like with the Ivy Cudgel, but I don't think it does enough, honestly. And it's like Iron Hands is going to be able to crit through the Dondozo. What's interesting here is I wonder if you ever bait out like a Protect from Justin's end. I think what Justin should do is like not click Protect right now, right? Because you know there's the risk of Whimsicott just switching in. I was like, if you are Daniel and you feel like you're really behind in this game, maybe you just go for a Hail Mary. You're like, I'm just going to hard switch into Whimsicott, try to go for that Encore immediately. But yeah, I think Dondozo is just too strong right now at this point. There's just not enough damage from Daniel's end. That Poison Gas miss, this is like where it is relevant, where if it had hit earlier, this Ogerpon would just constantly be taking damage and damage and damage. So that's kind of like one saving point for Daniel. But yeah, I think this is going to be really difficult for him to win now.
So just the Fake Out, we do see the Focus Energy locked into for this Ogerpon, but this is that mind game. We could see Justin just Protect, and then it feels like it's a little bit wasted. But what happens if you just protect the Ogerpon here?
Yeah, I think Justin is probably happy just clicking either Wave Crash here straight up into Ogerpon, honestly. Like you said, you could definitely go for a Spiky Shield right now. And yeah, I think like Daniel is like, oh, I just got to get some extra chip damage off. But how much does the low kick do to a +3 defense on Dondozo, right? And it is going to be the Wave Crash. Justin's saying, look, once I knock out your Ogerpon, I mean, how are you going to deal with Dondozo, right? And so, like, knowing there's the threat of Whimsicott switching in and clicking Encore as well, I think Wave Crash makes sense. Low kick does okay damage.
Pretty okay.
Yeah.
It's not as negligible as maybe I would have thought it would be.
Yeah, this is where I think like the Draco miss is obviously huge, right? If Draco had hit, the Dozo would be way lower, and then Ivy Cudgel maybe just finishes it off, right? But here, like Dozo's definitely going to survive a Cudgel here, and so wow, okay, interesting. You're seeing this hard switch, saying, look, even though I boosted myself up, I'm still not going to do much damage with Ivy Cudgel, so why don't I switch in something that can take a Wave Crash and then basically, yeah, get more free damage onto Dondozo. So I like the play.
I like it too. I mean, you do put Whimsicott into a little bit of a threat, just having to switch into the Toxic Spikes.
Oh my goodness.
But that is still so much damage. Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's just like Whimsicott's bulk, or if it's just the fact that this Dondozo did get the Commander boost, and so it's going to be doing more damage with the Wave Crash. But yeah, I mean, Dondozo now gets a little bit of leftovers recovery. You can see that's going to take it out of range of even just another low kick actually knocking it out, so you're going to need two. But at least the Whimsicott could help out here.
Yeah,
maybe
you can Tailwind here. I think that's probably your best play. But yeah, this is why I was like, I felt like the game was actually over once the Draco Meteor missed. To be honest, looking at like Daniel's remaining board positioning, you just don't have enough damage with this trio, right? And the poison is really adding up. it was really cool to see Justin be like, look, I know that you have things that can be annoying for Dondozo. I don't care. I'm going to bring it anyway. And the poison is actually putting in a ton of work. Like, I initially was like, do you have enough like defense to like actually stall out and get chip damage from it? But yeah, I think like Daniel's play is straightforward. Like nothing else really to go for other than Tailwind and damage in the Dozo. But Dozo's just going to survive unless it gets crit here.
Yep, so it's around to go for another body press, and that's really going to start to add up as well with all of those defense boosts. This is still going to take another 2 attacks here with a low kick plus a Moonblast from the Whimsicott to actually knock it out. And the biggest issue here as well is like you can't actually knock out the Dondozo, I think, and also do enough damage to the Tatsugiri.
Yeah. I think here, the problem is I don't think Moonblast KOs Dondozo. If Moonblast were to KO, then you'd at least get a solo attack into the Tatsugiri, but like here I think it's like, yeah, Dozo is just likely going to end up even surviving the Moonblast, right? And so if it survives the Moonblast, Iron Hands attacks into it, sure, but then it's another double poison tick. Focus Sash Tatsugiri comes back out. You still have Weezing and Calyrex Shadow Rider in the back. Daniel has at least set up that Tailwind, so if you can like manage to keep your Tailwind up and then get like Calyrex position against the Ogre Pawn, then maybe there's a chance here. Dozo is finally like relatively low and it doesn't really want to protect here because of the threat of Encore, but Justin actually is going to say, you know what, I don't care if you Encore me because I know Dozo's going to faint relatively soon anyway. It forces you to click that Encore and I know you have poison damage, and so I like this play a lot because the alternative is you use Faint clicked on Dozo.
Yeah, this is going to give you an even extra little bit of probability that you survive the Moonblast, and so also baiting out another turn of Tailwind. I think there's a lot of good things that go Justin's way from the Protect on top of what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see the rest of the turn play out.
This is like a really unique situation where like you almost never want to click Protect with Dondozo.
And Iron Hands just actually gets knocked out.
Yeah.
Wow.
You normally don't want to be clicking Protect in this position because of course you know Whimsicott has Encore, but like the extra turn actually matters so much because like you said, it stalls out a turn of that Tailwind and it means extra poison damage. So yeah, you can Encore Dondozo now, but who cares even, right? Because you're just still eating up so much damage across the board. So I really wish we could have seen this game play out with that Draco connecting on Dondozo. I think Daniel was okay taking this trade, saying, look, I at least get a ton of damage off against you, but that's the downside of Draco Meteor. It can miss, and with only 2 turns of Tailwind left and Whimsicott basically on its last life here from the poison, I just don't really see an out here. And there's still Sash Tatsugiri waiting to just like click that muddy water even.
Yeah. Oh, it's so tough. I mean, like, trying to go for the focus energy, I guess it at least like buys yourself a chance. And Dondozo even just trying to go for the double protect anyway, seeing if you can bait out the Whimsicott to not lock you into the protect. I think that's the right call from Justin. And then the Whimsicott gets knocked out to its own poison damage. So Ogerpon gets to go for the focus energy here, but you stall out for yet another turn. Because Dondozo is going to actually use the Protect next turn.
And the poison was so relevant in this game, right? It's what slowly knocked out the Whimsicott, slowly knocked out the Iron Hands, and you can see why this team is such a menace to go up against, right? And so even though Daniel had tools here, it's like the Ogre Pawn just in the end doesn't actually really do enough damage, right? Especially without a grass type attack. So the Dondozo is saying, you know what, I think you're always clicking Encore anyway, so might as well. But yeah, this should be a very clean victory now. Dozo, you know, just clicking Protect, obviously, because it has to, but yeah, it's like you have a Sash Tatsugiri, you have a Calyrex, Tailwind's about to expire as well, and so Justin deciding, you know what, I'm going to bring Dozo Tatsu, it worked, but man, I really can't help but wonder how different this game looks if that Draco Meteor connects on Dondozo.
Well, I even want to know, actually, with this focus energy, do you actually get the knockout into the Dondozo anyway? You know, I'm actually like quite
at this range, I don't think so, honestly.
Like, wait, I actually don't know if we are going to see it. Like, you just wave crashed from the... Oh, wait, right, it's still locked.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, oh, but Tailwind just expired, so...
Let's see. How much does this do?
I'm so curious.
I think it's like Ogre Pawn Terra and didn't do anything this game, right? And now it's too late. Yeah, it even survives this. Dondozo, the absolute monster. Of course, surviving so many hits in this matchup. And if you're Daniel, you've got to be wondering, what do I even want to bring out this Ogre Pawn? I think Justin baiting out that turn 1 attack, getting that layer of Toxic Spikes up, and that Toxic Spikes was just so crucial in this game to make sure that the Iron Hands and Whimsicott would eventually faint. So I think if you're Daniel, you look back at this game, you're like, well, okay, I missed Draco Meteor, right? Like, how different would this have played out if I had just hit that Draco? I think Justin, honestly, though, was like comfortable enough where he was like, okay, even if that Draco hits, like Order Up still knocks you out. Yes, I take a lot of damage, but then like I already have spread the poison. I've still got this Calyrex waiting in the back, right? Like part of what makes his team so hard to deal with is you have to get through Dondozo and you have to get through Calyrex. When one faints, there's still another waiting for you in the back often.
And it's tough because I think with the Tatsugiri left, like your terrestrialization into the Ogerpon actually becomes a liability. Like you're just going to take super effective damage from a wave crash or even from a muddy water. Whereas like I feel like if you had been able to save that terrestrialization for something else, like maybe you do a little bit more damage with the Dazzling Gleam from Rhydon in that case.
Yeah, one of the things I want to call out in that last game was Daniel didn't have to commit to the Draco Meteor because you had Ogerpon out on the field as well. Like I think you could actually have gone for Electro Drift and Ivy Cudgel into Dondozo, and that's saying, look, if you don't Terra, you switch into like the Wheezing out, boom, like I just get Electro Drift in terrain against your Dondozo. And if you Terra, well, great, now you're Grass Terra and I just Ivy Cudgel you.
Agreed.
And so I think that, like, even though Draco Meteor missed in that last one, like, Daniel actually had a different play that maybe he could have opted for, but Daniel also may have been like, I don't even know if you have Tatsugiri in the back. I think, like, there is a world in which you go, like, solo Dozo in this one just to soak up some damage, and so, but yeah, I think, like, Justin just scouting out for what move the Miraidon wanted to lock itself into means like he knew he could switch confidently without the Dozo was going to guarantee survive that turn unless he got like crit by the Draco as well, for example, and the miss just kind of like seals up the deal, I feel like, immediately.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I was even calling that out during that turn. I was like, you pin with Terra. So I think maybe just thinking about that approach in the next one. It's hard though too, because I think I don't know. Maybe like expecting DD is also going to be in the back somewhere. Maybe it does make an appearance and shut off your terrain anyway. But I still think you're doing more damage with the Miraidon with Electro Drift than Draco Meteor.
Yeah, I think the thing in that last one is like a lot of the offense basically was solely coming out from the Ogerpon, right? Which I think is okay, but Ogerpon didn't really accomplish anything on the first turn, right? And then it was so brilliant by Justin to basically like spend 2 turns baiting out the Ogerpon to target the Calyrex slot, right? I think that's part of what makes this really scary. One of the mix-up Justin can also do is just say, you know what, now I'm just going to switch it up. I will just attack aggressively with Calyrex because you're probably expecting me to play defensively. So here it is again, Wheezing and Calyrex, and it's going to be a slight mix-up here with the Farigiraf rather than that Whimsicott.
So, wondering whether or not we actually see something like a Trick Room.
Trick Room, yeah, certainly one possibility. I think, yeah, you can see this Helping Hand Fire Terra Ivy Cudgel option as well. So, this is what I was saying. Like, if you might want to say, okay, well, you're just going to protect again with the Calyrex, right? So, okay, Daniel considering a lot of different plays. He's also thinking about just Psychicking here. Of course, that would deal super effective damage, but yeah, the key question here is, does Justin call this out and say, you know what, I have a way to actually hit out your Farigiraf, and it's not going to be the Protect on the Calyrex. This could be Life Orb Pollen Puff. Okay, Wheezing protects. Is it Life Orb Pollen Puff? It could just be an Astral Barrage as well, but either way, Calyrex here just going for it. Yes, he calls it, and that does so much damage.
Wow, the Farigiraf is just on its last legs already, and it doesn't even get a chance to connect with that Psychic. That is a crazy call. I feel like that is just conditioning from game number 1.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Like, the mix-up you can go for now is just say, you know what, I'm going to attack because, like, I made the obvious protect last turn. And that's risky, right? Because you face the cudgel risk, you face foul play as well. But what a beautiful call by Justin. Has the game advantage, says, you know what, even if this doesn't go well, like, I at least have the game to do this, right? And so I think that's the advantage of going up 1 game in VGC. Now you've gotten so much damage off on the Farigiraf already. So what does Daniel do? He is trying to force down, like, you're looking at him considering that, you know, Terra play and then just going for that Ivy Cudgel into the Calyrex, trying to get that knockout, but he's running out of time right now. He's got to get his moves in on time. It is going to be the Ivy Cudgel lock in here. Calyrex will stay around this time, and so no switch into Dondozo, but this is a lot of damage that Calyrex will be able to do before it faints.
It could also just go for a protect this turn.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it could
exactly.
just protect itself from this additional attack, and there isn't even saying that, it actually just goes on the offensive. So Farigiraf gets knocked out before it can actually land that Psychic into the Galarian Weezing, but it does leave this Calyrex vulnerable to just taking a huge Ivy Cudgel here, and especially because you do just have an additional stack of damage output onto this Ivy Cudgel. This is actually just going to be a knockout into the Shadow Rider Calyrex.
So I think decent trade for Daniel here at the end of the day, right? You don't, I think, actually care that much about Furgraph, but the Toxic Spikes does go up. You've gotten the Terra out from Daniel's end as well. Like, Justin, I assume, has that Dondozo in the back, but this is the pin that we were talking about earlier, which is Miraidon plus the Ogre Pawn, right? So now, instead of clicking Draco Meteor, maybe you consider going for a Volt Switch or Electro Drift instead, right? I think the downside for Justin is that this Weezing isn't really doing too much at this point. You could Poison Gas and maybe get a Poison onto the Ogre Pawn. But yeah, you can see Daniel being like, okay, wait, I learned. I shouldn't just be clicking Draco immediately here. So he's thinking about going for that Volt Switch instead, right? And so I think even though like Justin had that really flashy turn 1, this game is not over by any means, and the positioning is actually still a little bit awkward because a lot of it basically relies on Dondozo specifically. Dozo being that Grass Terra, you really don't want to Grass Terra in front of this Ogre Pawn. If you do, you'll just basically lose Dozo, but if you don't, now you're taking super effective electric type damage.
Yeah, and either way, if you remove this Weezing, like, you actually get your abilities turned back on. So, like Electric Tinker back up. You also get the Embodied Aspect boost onto your Ogre Pawn. So, once again, Justin's going to play it safe. But a huge difference is knowing that it is going to be the Volt Switch from the Miraidon instead of that Draco Meteor. So Justin has to proceed with caution in these next few turns.
Yeah, absolutely. You now know, however, it is that Volt Switch. One of the things I was ever like thinking about is like, do you ever not switch in Tatsugiri and actually like just attack with Dondozo? But you're probably still taking so much damage here. And this is like, this turn is awkward, I think, for Justin, because it's like, what can you do, right? Like, if Tatsu is in the back, it's probably just go for the switch into Tatsu. Dozo does end up eating a ton of damage as a result, though, right? And like, Tatsu plus Weezing in the endgame isn't actually dealing the most amount of damage either. This Volt Switch means that the Miraidon will be able to pivot out, so Daniel has a really good like late game closer. So I really like Daniel's like recognition. I really need to just conserve what I think is actually one of the most important Pokemon in this matchup.
Yeah, I think I kind of wonder if maybe there was a little bit more that we could have seen come out from that Shadow Red or Calyrex. I feel like this Ogre Pawn is now in such a good position, but with this Tatsugiri coming in, isn't the Dondozo now faster than the Ogre Pawn because of the commander boosts?
Yeah, wait, do we see the speed interaction in the last game? Because like the Justin's Dondozo normally is going to be like really slow, I think, because it wants to be super, super bulky. But if it were faster, you could totally just like, yeah, Grass Terra Wave Crash here, exactly.
But we'll have to see the commander boost get activated first before we can see the rest of the turn play out. But that is something that like I can't remember, because we saw the Whimsicott actually go for the Tailwind and then yeah, just go from there. But I swear we saw the Ogre Pawn move first. I think so. Volt Switch into the Dondozo is just like almost a one-hit knockout, which is insane.
Oh, that did so much damage. I thought it would take it a little bit better, truthfully, but at least crucially survives, right? If you feign, that is like game defining right there. And so the poison does get spread here, but yeah, like this is much better for Daniel this time around. It is faster, so he could have gone for the Terra, yeah.
Wow.
Could have gone just Grass Terra, Wave Crash there.
Well, that's a really important information to know, but you knock yourself out in the process with this Dondozo because Wave Crash does do recoil. So I still think this is actually pretty good for Daniel. I mean, you get your Miraidon back in, the Dondozo is gone. Whimsicott can still maybe go for a Tailwind, but I suppose Justin can actually bring that Weezing back in and shut off the abilities.
Yeah, I think the scary thing here is Justin doesn't really have that much damage left, right? It's gonna be on that Tatsugiri. Oh, this is...
Draco Meteor
you have Draco,
into the Miraidon.
Yeah, that's basically it, right? Like, I think, but yeah, you risk just, Moonblast, but double up, KOing the Tatsugiri. Tatsu could protect, Weezing could go for a Dazzling Gleam, of course, and the other thing I'm curious about is there any chance that the Whimsicott is faster than, or sorry, Tatsugiri is faster than Whimsicott, because Whimsicott might be like super bulky, have like no speed investment. If that's the case, then you know you can take an attack from the Miraidon, KO Miraidon, right, in return, especially with no Terra available left from Daniel's end. And so that's the other thing I'm curious about. You know, Whimsicott naturally is faster than Tatsugiri, but Tatsugiri with Focus Sash normally going to be max speed here. Whimsicott might be super, super bulky, so let's see.
Ooh, that is a call. Please don't do that. All right, protect first from the Tatsu, so we might have to wait to see that out, but yeah, with no...
Oh, wow.
Okay. I like the safe play though, right? Because we still have choice picks on this Miraidon. You want to see what you're actually locking into. And if Terrestrialization would actually help you here, it's Stellar Terra for the Tatsugiri, and it is a Grass Terra from the Weezing.
Yeah, so this turn, I think Justin going for the Protectus, specifically scout out for what are you going to lock into once again. You can see like Daniel was hovering for the Draco into the Weezing, trying to maybe say, I think you're going to Grass Terra here, so I'm just going to go for it. Now, Weezing actually could just choose to not Terra, right? You're basically immune to Draco Meteor for the remainder of the game. I actually think Weezing probably just wins this game at this point, because it's awkward, right? Like, Daniel wants to Encore, but if you Encore, yeah, you're locked into that Draco. I think he was trying to switch to Dazzling Gleam in the last second, but may have timed out as well. But the reality is, like, Miraidon literally cannot hit the Weezing at this point, right? So I think Justin wins this, actually, then. Like, yeah, you can Moonblast Draco, double up into Tatsugiri. Otherwise, if not, Tatsugiri gets a Draco off. But then, like, Whimsicott, I think, just loses to Weezing. Like, I think the Miraidon locking into Draco is, like, the worst-case scenario here.
Yeah, it kind of looked like he was actually going back to go for the Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah.
But it's just, you are so back against the wall already. But the Draco Meteor does hit the Tatsugiri to bring it down to its Focus Sash. But maybe, you know, maybe you're lucky. The Helping Hand, Dazzling Gleam is just going to knock you out if you're the Weezing, and then you just get to leave this Whimsicott to be able to try to do its best. But
and yeah, Tatsugiri feigns, but having that Helping Hand actually so nice, allowing Weezing to actually deal so much damage here. But the reality is, like, yeah, Weezing's not going to do a ton, but Miraidon's literally going to do nothing, right? And so it's essentially a 1v1. Whimsicott now also taking poison damage, right? It's losing 20 health every turn. Moonblast is certainly not going to do enough. Daniel knows that, and so Justin's going to take this. That Volt Switch survival on Dondozo, though, so clutch.
That was so clutch. I really thought it would have had a lot more HP as well.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't actually expect, I was like, I don't think this has any chance of KOing, but I was like, oh my gosh, it almost did.
Yeah, but then I remembered what we've seen before from like Volt Switch from Miraidon on Electric Terrain into Terra Grass and Incineroar.
Yeah,
and actually, maybe I'm not so surprised at all and might have expected a knockout there instead. But congratulations to Justin Knox running back his team from the World Championships where he got